Think about the first few minutes of a long highway drive. Merging onto the on-ramp requires total focus, but once you settle into a flat, featureless stretch of road, your attention naturally drifts. You don't crash because of a sudden turn. You crash because you slowly wandered out of your lane. Classroom management follows the same pattern. Most teachers have a strong opening routine for the first 10 minutes, but the real challenge hits 20 minutes later, in the dead middle of the lesson, when the opening energy has worn off and the next transition is still miles away. At this stage, the drift is subtle. It is the sound of a whispered comment, a foot tapping, or a student checking a phone under a desk for the third time. Individually, these aren't major disruptions, but together they act like a slow leak, quietly draining the room's collective focus until the instruction loses its grip on the students. The common instinct is to slam on the brakes. A teacher sees the drift, stops the lesson entirely, and issues a public lecture to get everyone back on track. This creates a predictable cycle. By stopping the work to give a public warning, the teacher accidentally rewards the disruption. They hand the room a built-in break from the lesson, proving a little chatter can trigger a pause. When this happens every day, the pattern hardens. Students see the teacher's lecture as a scheduled pause they can trigger at will. The alternative is a protocol of 30-second resets. These are tiny structural corrections that keep the room in its lane without ever pulling the metaphorical car over. For isolated chatter, use a proximity drift. Without breaking the sentence you're speaking, walk toward the area where the noise is starting. Stand near the desk for a few seconds while you continue teaching, then move on. This tool only works if you stay mid-sentence. The moment you add a verbal comment, like, "I see you, put that away," the silent nudge becomes a public call-out, which is the exact confrontation this reset is designed to avoid. Physical presence answers the student's question about whether you're paying attention. Because you never stop talking, the room doesn't register a discipline moment, just a teacher who moves around while they teach. When the problem isn't just one corner, but a room-wide energy sag, you need a different tool. Insert a 15-second task with a physical action attached. You might say, "Everyone hold up your pencil if you can see the third example on the board," or point to the word in your notes that matches this term. Passive listening is what erodes first. A low-stakes physical requirement forces every student to briefly re-engage their attention without the pressure of answering a difficult question in front of their peers. It is a quick pulse check that resets the room's baseline attention in under 20 seconds, allowing the momentum of the lesson to continue uninterrupted. If side conversations start spreading across multiple desks, physical movement might not be enough. You need the 10-second silent reset. Stop talking completely. Keep gesturing toward your materials or writing on the board, but wait for a slow 10 count without looking directly at the students who are talking. Silence is uncomfortable. This reset recruits peer pressure. Someone will shush a neighbor to relieve tension before you say a word. This only works if you wait 10 seconds. Breaking silence early converts the pause into a shrug instead of a correction. Each of these resets handles a different texture of drift. A teacher who matches the tool to the specific problem, proximity for chatter, motion for a sag, silence for spreading noise, never has to stop the lesson to regain control. Having 3 targeted, near-silent resets ensures the instruction keeps moving, replacing the expensive habit of pausing for a correction every time attention naturally dips. These habits need to be established early. There is a 3-week window at the start of the year where behavioral patterns are formed and then hardened. Humans are natural pattern matchers. Students test a behavior once, watch the reaction, and then repeat whatever result worked in their favor. If a class learns in September that mid-lesson drift is followed by a predictable pause in work, they will carry that expectation through the rest of the year. Trying to introduce quiet resets in November means retraining a room that has already learned the old system works. The way a leader responds to drift in those first 21 days programs the group's default operating system for the months that follow. The time saved by these resets adds up. A teacher who stops for a 2-minute lecture just once per period will lose the equivalent of multiple full instructional weeks by the end of the school year. Beyond the time saved, this shift changes the posture of the leader. When a teacher relies on a daily cycle of lectures, they become an enforcer of rules rather than a guide through the material. Replacing the lecture cycle with these frictionless resets signals that order is a shared habit built together. It allows the teacher to remain a guide who gently redirects, keeping the focus exactly where it belongs, on the learning.